Yes, it is. It's because it's a real good thing. You first got up. Now we begin. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we do have the honor of having two special guests, our Chief of Police and one Mr. Artie Jones, our Economic Development Director. Now, he's new to the city, Chief's not, but I think they had past experience, crossed paths before, with accommodations. Now, I'm going to say this, because last week, before we had the special call meeting, we talked last Monday about what was on the agenda item. And I said that, I wasn't inclined, because I said I didn't even speak to Chief. I didn't want to incline. My first time hearing the presentation was the next day. I said, I'm not inclined to move services off of Old National, but I said, I'm curious to see what he got to say. But I said, that's just interesting. And I said, we'll see. But after hearing Chief, our city manager, and our real estate personnel or specialist, I mean, it just makes sense. It's business sense. And there is a savings. I'm gonna let him go on and explain that, but I'm just, because I did second the motion when my council member colleague, J.C. Sebastian, motion for the press. I look at it like this. There's just no space in South Fulton. And that's what we need to be focused on, because this is an issue. But we have those 9 acres, and like I said, I'm gonna let Chief explain that, but I wanted to give that corrected version to you, my kitchen cabinet, before we started that, because I wanted to address that so that we can be clear as we move forward. Now, which one of y'all up first? Since we have Mr. Artie on, go ahead, Artie, take it away.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Councilman? Okay. I was just making sure that you could hear me. All right. I would like to, I guess, first formally introduce myself to everyone. My name is Artie Jones, and I'm the new Economic Development Director for the city of South Fulton. I'm really not all that new. I've been with you guys since May 18th, but I finally had an opportunity to come in to speak with you. I have been in economic development since 2000, and I've worked for several cities in the state of Georgia in the same capacity. And I'm very happy to finally be here in the city of South Fulton. Just prior to me coming on board here for the city of South Fulton, I was with the city of College Park, and I was there since November 2013. So roughly about 8.5 years with College Park, and pretty productive time for me. Had a lot of great accomplishments, but there's always more that could have been done. And I'm looking to bring some of those same accomplishments, some of those same activities to the city of South Fulton. As I go through my brief presentation, I'm going to go back and forth between the city of College Park and the city of South Fulton because they're good. It's good comparisons. The city of College Park is 11.1 square miles in size. The city of South Fulton is over 87 square miles in size. College Park is built out probably 85–90%. There's very little new development that you can do there. Most of it's redevelopment that you can do in that area. As far as the city of South Fulton, about 70% of the property is undeveloped, which is a good thing because it's always easier to do new development than it is to do redevelopment in most cases. And you look at incomes overall in the city of College Park, in the city of South Fulton, incomes are about 15 to 20% higher than in the city of College Park. It's almost comparable to that of the city of Atlanta. The great thing about incomes being higher in various areas, that helps me as an economic development person to be able to attract better types of development. And I'll go more into what that might be. My job to the citizens of the city of South Fulton is to number one, increase the tax base. Increasing the tax base um, will bring more tax money to the city, which will in turn help us to employ more police, have better roads, fix the sidewalks, provide all the services that you guys want. Um, my job also is to retain existing businesses that are here, to keep them here in the city of South Fulton. It's also to recruit new businesses, and then also to create jobs, and not just any job, but my goal is to help create um, living wage jobs that can provide for your family. Um, my goal here, well, my job as an economic development person is not necessarily to create the jobs myself. The private sector does that, but my job is to create an environment where new businesses want to locate here in College Park. My job is to highlight and market the city, and with all the various attributes that it has. The city of South Fulton is a very complex city. It's a large city, 108,000 residents here, over 108,000. At the same time, you have a very urban area of the city. You have areas that's more so commercial, like you have the Old National area. You have areas that are more rural, like District 4, where Councilman J.C. Sebastian, is that's his district. That's District 4. You have other areas that are more so industrial, like your Fulton Industrial Boulevard area. So your city has lots of positive things going for it. One thing, as an economic development person, my first goal, or the first thing that I do when I come into a community, is I try to identify the areas of the city that may be economically underperforming. And you're probably asking me, what does economically underperforming means? If an area has lower property values, they have very few jobs in a particular area, if there is slum and blight, vacant buildings, that particular part of the city may be underperforming. After you identify the underperforming areas, I always also identify what are those things that the city does well? What are those things that the city does right? How can we capitalize off of those things? You look for that low hanging fruit, things that you can do to improve the city, in a short term. And then you look at those things that you want to improve in the long term also. Also, as I go through this presentation, and I'm not sure how things work here with Councilman Reeves, this particular event, but if you happen to have a question, please, stop me so that you won't forget what your question is, so that I can address it, because more than likely somebody else may have the same question that you have. So moving forward, it's my job to create an environment where businesses want to be. Also, it's very important to get the city, the residents of the community, and that's the city council and the residents alike, to speak to the same sheet of music and talk positively about, the city. An example that I have of something of a way I have been able to kind of change the narrative is in the city of College Park. In 2013, I can remember when I interviewed for the position, downtown was dead. There may have been 3 restaurants in the downtown area, and they were doing so-so, but not all that well. There was probably, I would say, about 50% vacant storefronts in downtown area. The sidewalks were cracked up, kind of trashy. The trees weren't pruned. Street lights were so-so. They were all right, but it just wasn't an inviting area. And by 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it seems like everybody rolled up the rugs and cut off the light because nobody was in downtown. I didn't know why this was going on. I mean, it had good framework. I mean, it had a MARTA station right across the street from downtown, but there was just nothing was going on. So I did exactly what I told you guys that I do when I first come into the community. I look at those areas that are economically underperforming, look at low hanging fruit, things that we can do to get more kind of change the narrative. The narrative that I saw when I saw downtown College Park initially was that it was a sleepy, small town that didn't have a whole lot going on and it didn't care a lot for itself because it had trash and garbage all over the place. Well, um, what I did is I encouraged the city council people to help fund the a grant that I received from GDOT to repair the sidewalks. Instead of the cracked up sidewalks, I repaired the sidewalks with concrete pavers. I worked with the power department to actually replace the lights that they had downtown to a different type of light. One light was street level for people that were walking, and then another light was a bigger light that shed more light, evenly distributed, which made it more inviting. We started to have public works to take the street sweeper to street sweep at least 3 times a week. And then we had a public works person that dedicated he dedicated every single day to pick up trash early in the morning and to, like I said, do that on a daily basis. Once we actually fixed the sidewalks in the downtown area, once the city showed the private sector that they cared about their city by investing in the sidewalks, some of the storefront owners of the vacant storefront owners, they began to paint their buildings. And after they painted their buildings, then people started to have more interest into those buildings. Some of those landlords actually leased their spaces to business people. Some of them actually sold their retail spots to people that opened up restaurants. And if you fast forward to where we are today, we have several, restaurants that are favorites, like Hattie Marie's, Virgil's, Johnny's Chicken and Waffles, Nouveau. Noodles was already there at the time. Hattie Marie's Barbecue was there. The Corner Grill, and I can go on and on about other
Breakfast
restaurants.
Boys.
Oh yes, of course, the Breakfast Boys. I could not forget them. But the thing is that when we show investment and we show pride in our own community, that gets the attention, and that also that gets the attention of those people that are outside the area and those people within the community. One thing that was kind of a punch to the gut before I took the position here in the Atlanta area, and I had no intentions. I'm from Southeast Georgia, a little town called St. Mary's. It's right below Brunswick, Georgia. I was also the community and economic development director there, but I had no intentions of ever coming to live in the Atlanta metro area. Whenever you graduated from high school in a small town that I was in, if you were Black, you would either, go to the military, or you would go to Atlanta, or in most cases you'd stay at home and you'd go to jail. You would not really be very productive. So I lived in, like I said, Southeast Georgia most of my life, went to Savannah State University and Valdosta State College. And after working there in economic development, for roughly about 13 years, I finally, decided with my wife that, we would consider moving to Atlanta, and I interviewed for the position in College Park. After I interviewed, I always wondered, well, and I accepted the position here. I can remember my aunt who, lived in Atlanta for 25 years, retired, and then she moved back down to St. Mary's, where I'm from. And I told her I was taking a job in Atlanta. And she said, yeah, I used to live in the Point area, and I used to live, Cascade area. And she said, oh, no, you don't want to go up to Atlanta. I said, well, why? I've always loved Atlanta. The only thing I can remember about Atlanta when I was growing up is that we would come up here to go to Six Flags. And as a kid, Six Flags, that was like the highlight of my summer, or whenever we would go on vacation or visit my aunt. And she says, you don't want to go up there. It's dangerous up there. And, she had like a lot of horror stories to say. And then coworkers while I was in St. Mary's says, "You going up there? I don't think you want to go up there. It's kind of rough." Everybody had these negative things to say, negative things. And when I finally made it to College Park, accepted the position and everything, you know, it's a great place. The South Side is a fantastic place. I love it. The only difference between College Park and where I came from in St. Mary's, Georgia, is you got 2,600 things flying overhead every day. That's those airplanes. That's the only difference. They're both small town feel, nice sidewalks, walkable, parks and everything. Great quality of life. But once I got here, I said, well, the thing that kind of was a punch to the gut is I found out that the people within the community themselves was talking negative about College Park. They were talking negative about about the South Side, which was very, very surprising to me. And it goes a long ways. If I had just listened to my aunt and said, okay, I'm not going to go to College Park because she said it's a rough place, then downtown College Park could look a lot differently now. But I didn't listen. I looked myself because I'm always the optimist. I'm always looking at the positive side. Even though I might doubt something, I'm always going to try to speak on the positive side. So what I did in College Park, in addition to infrastructure improvements and attracting cool businesses, because we couldn't find a lot of franchises to actually come to downtown College Park. So I found great mom and pop type venues that already existed in other areas, and I brought them to College Park. I cultivated relationships with small business people who wanted to open up their first restaurant. Hattie Marie's, Miss Mona, she's never owned a restaurant. Big success. #1 barbecue in Atlanta. Nouveau restaurant. I forget her name there. It doesn't come to me right now, but big success. She's opened up a second restaurant now in Jonesboro. Milk and Honey. Milk and Honey did exist in another area, and then they opened up another one, in downtown College Park. And I can go on with other restaurants that, you don't necessarily have to have a franchise or a brand that's nationally known. People go down to College Park in downtown because they get an experience there. And that's the same thing that I want to bring to the city of South Fulton. One thing that I've done to try to change that narrative, because most of the time, Fox 5 and other news stations, you only hear about the negative stuff. You hear about the carjackings and the person that got shot and, the fight that broke out. And, you hear about the negative things, but you don't hear about the positive things. That's one reason that I started doing my podcast. It started out as Clearly College Park. And I would interview mayors and elected officials and small business people and youth in the community and presidents of colleges and stuff, and talk about the positive things that goes on the South Side. After a while, the city wanted to kind of control what I said on Clearly College Park, even though it was something that was not funded by College Park. So that's when I started on the South Side, network, or the South Show, which if you go to Instagram, you can find the South Side Network or the South Side Show, and you'll see a number of people that I've interviewed. I'm probably about 25 guests in right now as far as interviewing. That's been going on for about the last year and a half. But what I'm doing is trying to change the narrative that we have been accustomed to for such a long time. Sometimes we don't even hear the negative things that's being said because it's been said so much. But we have to change that narrative, because if we don't, others from outside the community are going to get that narrative and they're going to twist it all around. And I know that, the city of South Fulton is a place that you all love because you live here. And I live in, like I said, I live on the South Side, also in College Park. So that is what my goals are, to bring more mixed use developments here in the city of South Fulton. My areas is to bring more industrial in the areas that are supposed to have industrial type uses in appropriate zoned areas. It's to bring more retail so that you don't have to go out, spend your hard-earned money, and send your tax money to Hapeville, Atlanta, and East Point. I want you to invest that money here. My goal also is to, another thing that I don't do is I don't accept less. I don't accept something just because. I wait for the right thing, and I make strategies to get the things that the community wants. Um, I haven't, my office door is open. I'm open to hearing any ideas that you might have, and trying to support the community in any way that I can. I don't know it all. I ask lots of questions. Sometimes I'll ask the same question 3, 4, and 5 times. And the reason that I do that is because I'm trying to get down to the root of the issue and not trying to fix symptoms in most cases. The first opportunity the first time that I was exposed to the city of College Park, that I knew about it, because I never knew that the airport was in College Park. But the first time that I was exposed to College Park is when I was in college, and this is 91. And I had a girlfriend that happened to live in College Park, it was unincorporated Fulton County. So I came up here, I met the family thing, and we went to the discount mall, and I just said that was just the most unique thing in the world. I wasn't used to, discount malls. I was used to flea markets, because Jacksonville, Florida is the closest metropolitan area to where I live. So we would have outdoor shopping versus discount mall was indoor shopping. So I thought that was unique. I can remember eating at Piccadilly. It was there. It was, of course, open during that period of time. I can remember, having a great experience. But fast forward from 91 until 2013, when I started working here. And you know what? I've seen very little to no change, in the College Park area, other than they have a new convention center there, and Old National looks about the same. I've seen lots of improvements on Old National over the last, I would say over the last 2 years, 2 to 3 years. It's definitely improving. But of course, there is a great deal of work, a great deal more that can be done. And I look forward to working with you guys to be able to, like I said, change the landscape, moving in the direction that the community would like to move, and have more stuff in-house in our community, so that we won't have to spend our tax dollars outside the city. I'm here to address any questions that you might have. So please feel free to, raise your hand or just speak up. You don't even have to raise your hand.
But rather quickly, can you just do this for me? And look at
Yes,
that.
sir.
Can you just talk 2 minutes? Two
Okay.
minutes on what does economic development looks like around a public safety complex, and how does that make it easier, more difficult, or smooth sailing out there for your job and the recruiting, what you just talked about bringing to the city?
Yes. Well, as far as having a public safety complex and having, economic development around it, it's always a positive. Wherever there is the sense that there is law enforcement in an area, it's going to automatically provide the narrative that this particular area, if we do anything bad in this city, we don't want to do it over here in this area where public safety is located. That's what, and at the same time, it's attractive to companies that may have some hesitation in locating in an area, because how of just because of the bad rap that a community or an area has because of what might be on social media and what might be on the internet. Most of the time when you hear of high crime rates online, more than likely the organization that is putting that information out there are security companies, believe it or not. They put that type of information out there. If you feel unsafe, they feel they're going to be able to sell more alarms. And it's a shame that they do that, but it's just what they do. But public safety in an area will definitely help to, as far as development around that property. And I'm talking about everything from residential to retail, even to office.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for that. And what we're going to do is how we're going to structure this is I'm going to let Chief Meadows go into his presentation and let a Q&A, because he did me a favor. And came on, already was scheduled. So we're going to go over tonight. And because I have a chief at a hard stop at 7:30 because he is at a Chiefs conference. So without further ado, go ahead, Chief Meadows.
Good afternoon. How's everyone doing? Thank you for affording me the opportunity to be here tonight, Councilman Reeves. I know that there's been a lot of misinformation floating around lately about the police department and what our intentions are along the Old National Corridor. Well, I wanted to start off by telling you all that we're purchasing, we've purchased 9 acres of land right at 138 in Old National. We expect to build a state-of-the-art police facility there. I've said historically, I don't really want to just build a police building. I want to put up a building that's interactive with the community. I've told our developers that I want to look at putting walking trails around the 9 acres of land, along with the little pocket park. I want to also have an area where people can come and do internet exchanges. For some of you that are internet savvy, you know, people do a lot of different business transactions over the internet, and we were looking at designating a little small space around the police department with cameras so that people can come and conduct those transactions safely. And so we want to really look at ways that facility can engage the community in a really meaningful way. We've reached out to a company, it's the Public Safety Institute for Better Facilities down in Florida. We expect that they're going to come up and do community surveys. They're going to engage you all and get served. They're going to pass out surveys and try to see what you all actually want to see in a public safety facility as well. And we've recently closed on the Jackson Music Store, which is right in front of that 9 acres of land. And one of the things that we're expecting to do is to put most of our forward-facing public services in that building. And what I mean by that, if you wanted to come in and get a police report, you'll be able to do that. If you needed to do fingerprints, background checks, if you needed to apply for permits, property and evidence will be in that building also. And we expect to move everything in there. Everything that we were able to do at the Air and Rents building, we'll be able to do in that Jackson Music Store building. Unfortunately, the businesses there asked for 30 days to be able to vacate the premises. And so we're looking at potentially somewhere around mid-November before they vacate the premises. And then we'll have to go through some minor renovations inside of the building. So we're looking at bringing that online sometime in December or right at the first of the year. And so I know that everyone felt that, you know, us closing down the Old National Aaron Rents building was kind of a slap in the face, but we really didn't have much of a choice because there were some environmental hazards inside of the building, quite frankly, that we had to get our employees out of that environment. And unfortunately, when we started trying to go into some of the other retail space, it just wasn't big enough. And either it wasn't big enough or they were trying to gouge the city on the pricing. Sometimes when they see a city government coming, they think deep pockets and they want to charge you $17,000 a month for about 5,000 or 6,000 square feet. And that's just not, first off, it's not nearly enough space for us. Second, that pricing almost doubles what we were already paying. And so when we started to look around the city, we found that there just simply wasn't an inventory available for office space that was ready to move into. Now, a lot of people say, well, you know, I don't believe that. It's all of these vacant buildings around here. Police departments are required by the state to have certain requirements in a building that we go into, because we tap into GCIC, we tap into federal databases, we tap into state databases. Most of our information that comes through the police department has to be secured, and the state has to approve those facilities in order for us to be able to move into them. Because when Fulton County moved into that Air and Rents building, there was a lot of renovations that had to take place inside of that building prior to that police department moving in. And see, a lot of times people think, well, you could just go set up cubicles anywhere. Well, that's just not quite the way that's not quite the way we're able to operate in law enforcement. You know, I heard one person say, well, you could go in a warehouse. Well, yeah, we could have gone in a warehouse, all these warehouses around here, but when we went in and started talking about configuring them, first off, 90% of the warehouse space that you rent is not air conditioned. It's heated, but it's not air conditioned. And when I started looking at what it would cost to put air conditioning in it, you're talking about $500,000, even before you start building out the office space inside of a warehouse. And so we started thinking about things in a long-term capacity, because it's important for us to be good stewards of tax dollars. And so going in and spending $2 to $3 million to renovate a building that you're only going to be in for 2 to 3 years just wasn't feasible, and it wasn't a good use of public resources or our tax dollars that's available to us. And so what we started doing was just looking for a space that the state would come in and approve immediately for us to move in, and as a turnkey operation. And unfortunately, nothing like that exists on the scale that we needed in the police department. And so we were forced to look outside of the city. And so one of my stipulations was that there would be no uniformed or marked police officers that would be at that facility. So the police departments are broken down into civilians and sworn people. We have a lot of civilian personnel that comes in every day. They enter records into that federal system that I talked to you about. They put warrants in, they put every traffic ticket that's written into it. They put court dispositions in there. They put a lot of different information in there. And so those people never come in contact with the general public, but they take up a good bit of office space, because what's required by the state is that you have so many square feet of locked of record space, and then your records have to be maintained in a certain way. And so when we looked at the personnel, we looked at all of our personnel that just simply does not come in contact with the general public. Our background and recruitment people, the people that do all of our hiring. Right now, they're at the Cedar Grove precinct. So when people in the Cedar Grove area go to that precinct, if they're doing interviews, they have to lock the door because they can't be interrupted while they're doing the interviews. And so that makes the people out there angry when they come to a police precinct and the door is locked. Well, we simply don't have enough office space currently assigned to us that allows us to engage in that sort of activity. And in order for us to grow the police department, we have to make sure that we're constantly hiring people, we're constantly interviewing people, we're constantly doing the background checks on those folks. And so consequently, all of these services all of the administrative services are in all of our police facilities right now, and they're small. For instance, the Cedar Grove precinct is only 1,200 square feet. The Cascade precinct, where my office is only 900 square feet. The only other precinct we have is the Butner Road precinct, which is 1,200 square feet. And so if you could imagine, we have 174 people, employees, that's utilizing less than 5,000 square feet of office space. And so it's been extremely taxing. We've had quite a few of our personnel to quit because of the working conditions. But at the end of the day, we have to also not only make sure that we're taking care of our employees, but also providing the type of services that our citizens have become accustomed to. And so it pains me to go outside of the city, but at the same time, I have to look out for those men and women that are serving every day to make sure that we can get them into the appropriate environment. And so the misinformation that's floating around out there, some people are doing the information deliberately, and some people just simply don't know. And one of the reasons I agreed to come on tonight, because I am in Dallas at a Chiefs conference, is because I understand the importance of me tapping down the misinformation that's floating around about this facility that we're getting ready to move into. And so for those people that are deliberately spreading misinformation, good luck to them, God bless them. But at the end of the day, as the chief of police, I have a responsibility not only to our public, but to our employees as well. And so, having said that, Councilman, I don't know if you wanted me to stop and take questions or.
Hey, Chief, I know you're at a conference you did. We'll take a few questions if you don't mind, if they have some. But thank you for bringing the facts, because we like to educate people, because we would rather to be educated than misinformed, as they have been. So a fact is the police president is not going anywhere on Old National because we do have the Jackson Music Store. And while this lease is being occupied for 3 years, but people, I want to celebrate this. And so as I stand behind Chief and the decisions he make, and Chief, did we talk before the meeting about this situation?
Well, I've been in contact with all of the council members, but and we've discussed alternatives, and everybody we've explored all of the alternatives, and so I think that it's important. Listen, every decision can't start and stop with Keith Meadows, and so when I reach out to the council people, when they start getting beaten up by their constituents, I ask them, listen, if you all have any suggestions, I'm open to it. I'd be more than happy to sit down and discuss these things with you. But I got in my car just about every Saturday and drove around the city of South Fulton looking for office space and writing numbers down off of billboards and calling realtors, trying to find an adequate space. And I bumped into this one company at Hartsfield Jackson who's paying $25 a square foot for the space that we're moving into now, and said, listen, we understand the problem that you're having. We'll sublease our space to you for $15 a square foot, and we'll continue to pay the other $10 a square foot. Now, in my opinion, that's a great use of taxpayer dollars, because we're getting a $25 per square foot space for $15 per square foot, which would really cost us about $39,000 a month, and it's only costing us $21,000 per month. And so we're talking about that over the course of a 3-year period where we'll be building out, this state-of-the-art facility that we're talking about. And then it doesn't even impact the visibility of our police officers along, that Old National Corridor, which surely needs that kind of visibility. So
absolutely. And just for the edification of the public, so just so that people can understand, the precincts that closed to move into this facility, what was the total amount we was paying for both of those precincts?
The precincts that we're in now?
Yes.
Oh, you mean the Aaron?
I mean, that was occupied, the Old National and the other one that closed down to move into the administration.
So we were paying $12,000 per month at the Aaron rent space, and then we were paying $2,900 per month at the other space.
So roughly about $15,000 total.
Right.
So essentially, this is only $6,500 over the amount that we're already currently paying, and
it almost doubles the amount of space that we have, because right now at Aaron Rents, if you drive by that sign, that's only 8,000 square feet. And when we did our needs assessment, the company that we commissioned said that in order to adequately run the South Fulton Police Department, when you get to your normal allocation for manpower, you'll need just over 55,000 square feet. Now, understand, for the past 4 years, we've been operating in less than 20,000 square feet of space for the past 4 years. And so, we've been juggling a lot of things in order to make this work. But, at the end of the day, nobody could have anticipated that building, even though we were getting it inspected regularly, would have been infested with mold to the degree that it was. Right. And so we would have been able to stay in that space until our facility was built. But I cannot do that at the risk of our employees' health. We had one of our employees that quite frankly, I can't tell you his name because I don't want to get in trouble with HIPAA, but he had mold in his lungs. I can't imagine, and he has to go through therapy for that. Me having to tell a family member that, I wasn't strong enough to do what I needed to do to get our employees in the right type of facility, because the building that we were in was infested with mold.
I'm gonna just say this, Chief. There's no other explanation you need for that. You came on here and did a very good job of explaining and the decision that was necessary to make. And I will say this, as I always say, look within first. This is the case since I came on to this dais. We've been looking for this space. And I just never said anything because that's the privilege of executive session. And this is why we have executive session for this very reason, because there was some missed opportunities. But we're not neither here nor there. We celebrate this day because when we emerge back into the city in a state-of-the-art facility, God bless the city that has its own. So thank you, Chief, for your efforts.
Yes.
And go to questions.
Councilman
Tamika.
Reeves, yes. Councilman Reeves, I just want to thank, this is Jane. So I just want to thank, you know,
You're breaking up. Jane, you're
Okay,
breaking up.
Jane,
We
you
can't
break it up.
understand you.
Right. We'll come back to you, Jane.
Detail. Okay.
Ms. Collins?
Yes, how's everyone tonight?
Awesome.
Good. First of all, I want to thank the chief, and I understand perfectly well how this will help our city and help us move in the right direction.
Yes, ma'am.
And the fact that we're going to save money from these places that are closed to help reduce the monthly payment for the new place. But my question is to Mr., is it Artie Jones, the economical development person? Is that his
Yes,
name?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my question is to you is the controversy over the lost funds. Now, if we lose that funding, how much of an impact will that have on the city? Will the millage rate have to be raised? And how is that going to affect us negatively in this situation?
Okay. Well, what I know about the lost taxes that we're collecting right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councilman Reeves, I believe it's about $33 million maybe that we collect in lost funds, local option sales tax. Our city budget is right at about, what, 110 million, maybe somewhere in that neighborhood. So you're looking at almost 1/3 of your, a little bit over 1/3 of the budget will be gone. Several things will happen if we lose lost funds. Either we'll have to cut back on services that we're already getting to be able to make ends meet. Number two, we may have to raise taxes in some other way. That'll definitely has to happen. And then number three, I'm quite sure we'll probably have to have a RIF, an RIF, a reduction in force, laying people off, because salary jobs is where most of the, any budget goes for any type of business, corporation, or local government. So we're keeping our fingers crossed right now that negotiations for lost will pick up, and that there will be some cooperation between, the county and the cities. But as for right now, like I said, things are not going that well. I hope I've been able to address your question.
Well, you did, and I really appreciate it. So the 33 million, is that annual over a period of years?
Oh, that's 1 year.
For 1 year, we would lose
Yes.
$33 million per year.
Yeah, and don't quote me on the number exactly. Just realize that it is a significant amount of money that the city is going to lose, a significant amount. So all the officers, all the officers that need to be hired, all of the roads that need to be repaired, the trash, the garbage that needs to be picked up, your trash service, a lot of the improvements, road resurfacing, roundabouts, a lot of that stuff is in our general fund budget. So it is very, very important that, the local residents here call their county officials that represents them and let them know that we want some resolve, and, that we are, them taking money away from the city of South Fulton and all the other cities also makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, because they serve all of us. They serve all of us.
Okay, I attended the last meeting and it was my understanding that the county is using the funds for their court, jails and what have you. And the money is not supposed to be used in that manner. It's supposed to be used for parks, police and other services.
Right.
So do you think maybe this may end up in a court battle? But we don't know yet.
Oh, I think it's already going in that direction now, as far as the clarification of what the funds can and cannot be used. I'm not sure if it has to go to court or some type of arbitration, but the definition of what the funds can and cannot be used for is being argued on both sides in two different directions. So I would say that eventually it'll probably make it there if things don't get better. But as for right now, the important thing is that they continue to talk and that the county not be, like I said, greedy to the point of increasing their 5% share to like almost 35% when they have less than 1,000 residents that live, in an unincorporated Fulton County.
You know
Okay.
what, Artie, if I could elaborate on that a little bit, because
Sure.
I've had this conversation with many of our citizens. Fulton County right now is spending millions of dollars on a police department that's only covering 1 square mile of Fulton Industrial. They're not even providing services to any citizens in Fulton County. It's mostly warehouses along that Fulton Industrial corridor. And so for them to spend millions of dollars for a police department that's covering 1 square mile, I'm here at a police chief conference with a police chief that has 5 square miles, and he has 40 police officers. And so I've repeatedly made the argument. Sheriff Labatt and I have talked about it. He would have been willing to cover that 1 square mile of Fulton Industrial if the county was willing to give him those resources. But at the end of the day, the commission continues to fund the police department. That's really, they have helicopters, they have, all of these resources over there to cover 1 square mile of patrol area, which quite frankly, is really insignificant when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, especially if the sheriff is willing to cover it. That's millions of dollars by itself.
Absolutely. You know what else is insignificant that Fulton County has too? Is that E911 center. If they take this and want to be greedy with the laws, y'all see how this is going. So when she brings this back up, we're gonna need y'all support because I believe in bringing it in house. And so along with that new building that we're gonna have over here on Old National Best.
Right.
That's wishful thinking, but we can start working on that now because there is legislation that the state is going to work on to introduce to remove the power from Fulton County. So anybody want to become a lobbyist, let's go help champion that cause because you see what they were doing and how much territory did they cover, Chief?
1 square mile. Everything north of I-20 is what they cover, and the South Fulton Police Department covers everything else. And so if you can imagine, by the time you drive from I-20 to Donnelly Hollowell, once you get to Donnelly Hollowell, you're in the city of Atlanta. And so really, their police department is only covering that little small stretch of Fulton Industrial right there.
All
That
right, you
seems
have
like
some
it's a job for
questions?
retirement. But go ahead. Any other questions?
You have a
For
chat
Chief,
and
we're
question.
going to have a couple more questions for Chief, and then we're going to let him go. And then we're going to
How-
remain on with Artie.
How can designated funds be reallocated?
Was that
Well,
question? Oh.
Yeah, well, when it comes to lost, LOST, those funds cannot be reallocated. There's a rule that says that the county would collect the lost funds and that they would be allocated to the cities. If the county does not sign off on the lost funds, then they just go away as of January 1. So there isn't a reallocation, they just go away. They can no longer be collected. So that means that not only will the cities not receive any lost money, but the county also will not receive any lost money. But it's not going to hurt the county like it's going to hurt us because the county has very limited, things that they take care of. The cities do everything for the cities, if y'all understand what I'm saying.
Another question says, what do you define as downtown and where do you envision that area to be?
That is a very good question. I do not envision Old National Highway as a downtown area. Old National Highway is a commercial corridor, which there's great types of economic development can be done in commercial corridors. Your downtown areas are usually don't have, I would say 4 to 6 lanes. They have more pedestrian friendly areas where people can walk. They have shops and stores and a focal point. I'm going to be over the next, I would say by the beginning of next year, I would say February timeframe, I'm going to be unveiling where I feel that, you know, a downtown area can be developed for the city of South Fulton, so that there'll be a focal point. As I was stating earlier, looking at the entire city of South Fulton, it has so many different characteristics all over. And one thing, my job is to be able to identify the area, the various characteristics, and build upon those characteristics in those particular areas. But it's not something that you want to make a mistake at. If you understand what I'm saying, your downtown area is going to be the area where the community gathers. It's an area where most of the time it's going to be the area where a lot of your public facilities are going to be located. Maybe your city hall, or like I said, public spaces. It's going to be an area where there's parks. And at the same time, there's going to be retail and residential in that same area.
Okay, any more questions for Chief Meadows before we let him go?
Ms. Miller Map,
I'm sorry, repeat it.
I was going to ask more on that lost funding. I think I understood Chief Meadows saying that the money was not allocated; it was just not signed off specifically to the cities. Did I understand that or misunderstand that? Is that right?
The lost money is actually, each city gets a certain percentage, and it's usually according to the amount of residents that they have within their respective jurisdictions. When that money comes to the cities, there's as far as the allocation, that entire amount can only be used for certain types of activities. So it doesn't matter how the city uses it, so long as they use it for those activities, it's all good. What's the battle that's going on right now is that the county wants to change their allocation from 5% or just under 5% to approximately almost 30%, 33%, which is going to take away from all the other cities. And that's why the cities are kind of doubling down and not, signing off on that. So did I answer your question, your allocation question?
I think so, but does that mean that City of South Fulton had already made plans for the original amounts received or promised, and now we cannot use that money?
Oh no, we can use that money so long as we're getting it. The current lost negotiations that's going on right now, if we don't come up with an agreement with the county right now before December 30th or January 1st, that's when we will not receive any more lost funds. The lost funds, each of the cities that are in Fulton County they're already on every year. They know that they're going to get so much in lost funds, so they automatically budget for the use of those funds. If we don't get any after January 1st, then there's going to be some significant cutbacks, because that funding will not be coming in anymore.
And where do we stand on that?
As far as the lost negotiations,
Yes.
as for right now, they're still, like I said, having negotiations. They're still having meetings. I'm not privy to those meetings. The person that meets during those meetings is usually the mayor and maybe the city managers of the various communities in all the Fulton County communities. Miss Tammy, who is the city manager, can provide you additional information on that, but I'm sorry, I'm not in those meetings.
Okay.
Okay,
Right,
we,
right. And so I'm about to let Chief go. Thank you, Chief, for coming on. I appreciate you. Thank you for taking time out of the conference. And thank you for bringing the facts to the constituency, sir.
Thank you all so much for having me tonight. Thank you now.
Yes, sir.
All right, travel
All
safely.
right. Bye-bye.
So yeah, okay. So the people who are negotiating for the city that we elected or chose to represent the city in our negotiations is the city manager, the city attorney, and Dr. Rowell. And so the mayor is always invited to go down there. And so, and that's who brings back the reports on this as how the negotiations are going. I mean, you can read like any media article on it. It's devastating. But let me just say this. I think that there are cooler heads that's going to prevail. They just want a lot more than they need, and we need a lot more than they want. So it's just got to come to a common ground in the middle. I think we're going to reach that solution, but I'm going to believe in the process. But December's already here to me because you see Christmas stuff out, and so it's going to be here before you know it. So we do need to get this done and not be working through the holidays. And so, but yeah, Mr. Artie. So I know you talked about Old National, and that's a redevelopment phase. Do you
Yes.
ever can Old National look like Roswell Road in 20 years?
I'm not all that familiar with Roswell Road, but if it, so I mean, what's going on in Roswell?
Well, let me give you an example. Mayor Khalid did a tour as a council person and went and took a tour up there. They have their city hall and then right across their building, the Veterans Memorial Park. Go figure. And so,
Okay.
but let me just say this is that as being from here, Roswell Road 20 years ago was Old National Highway. And
Okay.
it's almost like they flipped. And so, and what, and we can go up there and take a look and just, ride and see how they developed that. But what had to take place for that to become what it is today was they did a lot of that. The county did a lot of, let's just say, removal of unwanted services there before the city
Right.
took over. And so, and they had a 10-year gap, and they have a 10-year head start. So any revitalization that's going to come to Old National to look like what we want, truthfully, transparently being told, you're looking at a 10 to 20-year deal. But what can we get in the meaning between time in that 2 to 5 year deal? Now that we know that we done acquired some land, we got some buildings that the city will own and house services in. What can that look like because we have an LCI and the last meeting is October the 27th at New Life Presbyterian. And
Right.
so when people talk about the corridor, how important is attending that LCI meeting and having input and the follow through with the actual projects to being constructed? How does that look?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very important. The LCI is just a part of the overall redevelopment phase. After the LCI is actually adopted, and the LCI stands for Livable Centers Initiative is actually adopted, what we will do is we will focus on a 100-day plan. The first 100 days after the LCI is completed, there's going to be a number of activities that we are going to engage in. Those particular activities are going to be laid out by the collaborative firm, the firm that has been charged with the task of actually completing that study for us. And in addition to that 100-day plan, there will be a 3 to 5 year plan also that will be a part of that package. That 3 to 5 year plan is not something that only economic development will actually address, but also it will be something, it will also be the community development department will be involved. All the various departments will be involved to try to move that plan forward. The community also will have to be engaged and involved. The LCI plan talks about what the particular uses of various properties are, yet at the same time, the city don't own these properties. Some of the properties is owned by World Changers Church. Some of the properties are owned by private individuals who are absentee landlords and don't live, in the, I guess, anywhere close to the Old National Corridor area. Some of those properties are owned, some of them are public properties. But we're going to have to work collectively with these. Yeah, we're going to have to work collectively with the community in being able to push that narrative forward. Now, with Roswell, you said it was like 10 to 20 years for them to do, a makeover of that area. One thing that I don't want the community to kind of get caught up on is that the time frame, number one, that it takes to get these things done, and also, just looking at another community and say, hey, that's how I want, the city of South Fulton to be on the Old National area. I want it to be like Roswell. What I look at is that, okay, I want the city of South Fulton to be a combination. I want it to be a little bit like Atlanta, a little bit like Decatur, a little bit like, East Point, a little bit like, Roswell, to give it its own character. Some people want Old National to be the way it used to be. I'm not saying it can't become like that, but at the same time, if I use myself as an example and the health and condition I was at 25 years old and how I was a picture of health then, I'm a man now that is, I would just say, a lot older than 25. I'm not in that same condition, but I still go to the gym to try to be the best shape that I can be in. So Old National Highway has a great deal of potential to have very positive experiences, lots of great development, family fun development, but it will take the effort of economic development, community development, code enforcement, the police, fire, the citizens that live in the area, the Old National District Advisory Committee, your council people, all working together, pushing in the same direction. I feel that if everyone works together, once we figure out the characteristics that we want to embrace for the Old National area and those characteristics that we want to get out and to push out, that we're going to be successful. And what you'll find out is that 3 to 5 years from now, you'll look back and you'll say, wow, we have accomplished a lot. We have done some great things here. And you just have to continue to push that narrative forward. One thing about, and this is something else I want everyone to understand, the city of South Fulton is only 5 years old, over 5 years old. May 1st was, 5 years. And before then it was unincorporated Fulton County. Unincorporated Fulton County really did not have an economic development focus. Unincorporated Fulton County was somewhat of a bedroom community for the city of Atlanta and the city of East Point and the city of College Park and everyone else. The city of South Fulton, or unincorporated Fulton County, grew organically. And what by organically I mean it just grew. A neighborhood popped up here, a neighborhood popped up there, a new street came up here, and it just continued to develop over time. It's unlike, Fayetteville. If you were to go to Fayetteville and the Fayetteville Pavilion area, that is a planned development. If you look at the housing that happens to be there, the shops and stores that happen to be there, it was all planned that way. So when you look at other communities, don't expect that the city of South Fulton and the Old National Corridor is automatically going to become a planned development, because it did not start out that way. It grew organically. What we must do here, what staff does, what my job, my goal is to look at the bones of what exists within the Old National Corridor, capitalize upon those things that are positive, get rid of those things that are negative, and then build a foundation upon that to go out and get investment to pump back into the Old National area. And the thing is that the more investment that the city puts into an area, you'll find out investment attracts investment. sometimes you have to have the public sector to put money into a project before the private sector will come. An example is, just like I told you about the sidewalks in downtown College Park. Things were in pretty rough shape initially. College Park went in, they redid the sidewalks, put in pavers, they put in lights, infrastructure, and automatically the businesses started to invest. And then you have what you have, we have what we have today.
Where did
So,
that funding come from, Mr. Jones? To put them lights in and the sidewalks in College Park?
well, basically, there was a $250,000 that we received from GDOT, the Georgia Department of Transportation. $250,000 don't go very far.
It gets you one stoplight.
Yeah, right. You get your one stoplight, basically. So, but what the city did is that they matched those funds, almost dollar for dollar. And what we did is we only actually, in downtown College Park, we only did 2 blocks, believe it or not. We started at Princeton Avenue, we went down to Harvard, and then we went down to John Wesley. We did 2 blocks, replaced the sidewalks in those 2 blocks, and then all of a sudden, we have 5 to 6 blocks activated.
Now, I'm gonna say this. Y'all just didn't put in sidewalks. Y'all created outdoor spaces that restaurants can eat into. So it's not just 2 blocks, it's a convenient 2 blocks that expanded the capacity that they have. As you go up there and see the results of it now on a Friday night as people eat outside and, under the lights and everything else. And so we do want that materializing here, but I'm like you. And this is why I like this guy, because he want to win a championship. As we're eclectic, we South Fulton, we ain't nobody else. We ain't compared to nobody else. We us. And I just like, you know what I mean? And I'm just saying, I'm all about the South Fulton, baby. And so it's, and I'm excited. And one of the reasons I'm excited is because I had to learn this as well, patience. And it ain't coming overnight. The small little things that are taking place, just even from getting solar lights here and the lights, the stop sign to light up, and still working on these have been seeds that have sown. Hey, even some things that happened from the previous administration, and you have to give credit where the credit is due, because that's just legit what happens. It's just a process. And but the things that we was working on today, and I just don't say much because I want to let things materialize organically, like he says. And so, because it's not about me, it's truly about we, and it's truly about us and how we're going to do this. Because we can plant the seeds, the community, y'all have the ability to water it, but only I am gives it the ability to grow. And so we're planting seeds. And so some of the seeds have been watered and some seeds he is growing. But I also want to focus on another area that's a major corridor people kind of sleep on, because it's really this.
Hold it, before you go there, we got a couple of questions.
As Mr. Jones, I want you to read it too, is because I put into T-Splash to extend the sidewalks on Flat Shows from Union City to come through the boundaries up Flat Shows. So we can just be like a uniform, and there are funding sources. But what about the Flat Shows Buffington Road area and far development, particularly Royal 85, where they're getting ready to construct a new Mercedes-Benz museum, and then they're going to turn the existing building into a van location. But we're also going to be working with MARTA, GDOT, City South Fulton, and them to redo that parking lot, really as a GDOT-owned parking lot by MARTA. And I asked them to put a little track around there as well. And so, because we have a lot of walking clubs and a lot of people in the walking community, and we lack a track. For the community use, let me just say that. And so, how do you look at that area? Because there's another major corridor, because we come out, you go 285 Old National, come 85 South, but that's Flat Shows. And then when you go see exits, like everybody go down to Fried Green Tomatoes. I don't know if people down there in Noonan, but when you on your way down there, you see this long little bridge go across the highway. That's a pedestrian bridge. And I want one of them for South Fulton to connect that Buffington Road and Rural 85. How feasible is that? How does that look? And how do we just get it done?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to take a lot of work. One thing about development is that whenever you go into a project, whatever the project may be, let's imagine that you're on the football field and you're trying to run a touchdown. and you have the ball in your hand and you're running, and there's 11 guys in front of you trying to tackle you. Well, you know, the mindset is, of course, you want to try to run that touchdown, but you got 11 people in front of you. The thing is that you're on a team also. You got 10 more people that's on your team. So you have to allow them to block for you and to help you out. You get behind your blockers to be able to run that touchdown. The same way that the Atlanta Falcons just did this past Sunday.
I'm
Well,
trying to tell you.
the thing is that looking at development, the city of South Fulton can't look at just going in and being able to put all the resources together to get these projects done. Some of the things that Councilman Reeves just mentioned about GDOT did certain things, the private sector did certain things. You have the, I guess I forget the museum that you just talked about, but you got the private sector doing some things, public sector doing other things. You have nonprofits doing some things. You have the community coming out doing other things. It's a collective effort. And whenever you try to go after these projects, you have to get a little bit from everybody. Councilman Reeves mentioned something about, the parklets in downtown College Park, the outdoor dining. The parklets came almost 6 years after the sidewalks were already done. And the only reason that they came online is because COVID came, and we knew that the restaurants that once were had the capacity to have 100 people in the restaurants, it almost dropped to 1/3 of that. Only about 30 to 33 people could be in those restaurants because there was COVID restrictions where you had to space yourself out. So we said, let's do this. Let's take these parking spaces outside and make some outdoor dining, because we knew it was healthier for people to eat outside than inside because of COVID, and people were dying left and right. Well, that's how that came up. But you know who we helped? City of College Park didn't do that by themselves. They put in a little bit of money. It was a match. The community raised money through the Main Street organization, and GDOT came in and provided us with some preliminary type information and the authorizations to be able to have outdoor dining, because Main Street is actually a Georgia highway. So it was a collective
Indeed.
effort of many organizations, and we were able to get it done. Could College Park have done it by themselves? I think not. We didn't have the money. Could Main Street have done it by themselves? No, they could not. Could GDOT have done it by themselves? Well, they could have, but if you hold your breath for about 20 years, that'd be about the time that they do it, because GDOT don't move slow at all. I mean, don't move fast at all in
Right,
anything that
right.
they do.
Right. But I want the people to understand this as my kitchen cabinet. Did y'all hear how excited he got when he talked about that? And so, because they understand this, it's collaborations that win championships. You cannot do it by yourself. It's going to do it all together. And I don't know if anybody mentioned this to you already yet, but Winterfest. This is going to be a collaborative effort at we expanded our territory. This is one of the things I remain absolutely mute on until we close the deal, as we had our fire come out and have a scrimmage for kickball. So they won the kickball tournament title. Now it's fire versus everybody. So we're legit going to bring this back. But I wanted them to have the opportunity to utilize that field first.
Right.
And then we had a movie night, and you came and brought your son over to the movie night. And it was a little chilly, but we're going to have a veterans cook-off November the 5th. So anybody know a veteran who can cook chili? And we're going to have 3 categories: meat, vegetarian, and vegan, because people need to know the difference between those. And this is going to be, to your point, Mr. Jones, this is going to be a collaborative effort, because it won't be at the field, but Winterfest is from, I need your involvement, the DDA, Old National District, the Chamber, Old National Merchants Association, and Old Nehru. And because we're going to have an ice skating ring, trees that communities can come, the schools can come down and decorate. And don't look so surprised. So we're about to discuss this, but you're just getting breaking news right now, okay? So, because we don't get to work. But the one thing this community does need, besides the track, because that field is going to be for a purpose, and your input is going to be needed on this design. We have a little preliminary concept. But this community we need co-working spaces and nonprofit spaces. As I legit want to work on a building, how can this is one of the things that I want to start in this process on how can we achieve this? And I'm talking about over on Buffalo Road, Flash Hills area, as because we also too have a need that in senior housing, but that's on another topic. But how can we achieve that, and what can we do to work towards that goal? Because that is an immediate community need, and that's what we need out there the most. And so, what does that look like as far as the process of starting it, engaging? Then, of course, we got to fund it, and but how can we start that process, and how would you approach that situation so we can get that ball rolling? As I legit want to work on that before anything, because I do know that that's a need that we have in our community, because we have a lot of nonprofits but they have no space, and then we just need spaces that can be utilized. But I'm specifically talking about a building that houses organizations like that.
Okay. Well, what I would say that my first step would be is to really just sit down with the community and figure out exactly what is it that they would like to have in that particular area, and make sure to get the buy-in from the community. Second, I would move on to the city council, and I would talk with the leadership to make sure that they were behind it also, because my activities are guided by the city manager, and I need to make sure that whatever I'm trying to push on behalf of the city, that the city, of course, is in favor of. And then from that point, we would come up with a strategy to be able to come up with whatever it was that the community wanted in that particular location. And we would also look at the feasibility of it. And I would come back and I would provide recommendations on how to get there, and say, hey, if we start this project now, we might have it in 3 years. Or if we start this project now, it might take 6 months, but I would try to provide some realistic goals and timeframes, lay out the strategy, the implementation table, and then slowly work towards that, and have a team around me that would wake up each and every day to do nothing more than to push that narrative and push that goal forward.
Oh, we got a team for
It's
you.
not, I'm sorry.
We have a team for you.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all about finding out what the needs are, making sure people are supportive of it. And if we're all pushing in the same direction, guess what? We're going to move it. All right. We're going to shoot for the A+. Okay. But if we get the B-, is it still a success? I would say yes, it's still a success. If it's a C, it's still a success. We got it done. But most people are faulted by not taking the first step. And the other half of the people are faulted by not having a strategy. We
I
have
have a
to,
question.
yes.
So let me address this real quick, because he did something and I just had to come on camera, because no, this is a strategy, and this is going to be a community-led effort. But see, I believe in subject matter experts being subject matter experts. I lean to your expertise, sir. And so I'm not one who, I don't cross over. I'm not an economic development director, but I do know how to connect the dots. And so, because we have a real opportunity with Fulton County, the same one who wants to take this loss, as along our buffer to road corridor. And I just want to look at a vision that I have. We are surrounded by five Fortune 100 companies right here. Do you know where they go eat at? No, not here. So when I'm looking at Royal 85 with this Mercedes-Benz thing, I legit drove down there and just, every time I drive by, I just envision it has its warehouses, but in those little pockets, those little nice little restaurants. And they got even a lake right there. If you ever been raised on the river, you saw they built a building, they just put a little thing around there. And so we have opportunity. You just have to see the vision. But it's the vision, this is mine. Of course, I would say, but I'm pushing whatever the vision of the community wants. But they have legit told me that they won't sit down rest with a white tablecloth. Let me say that. And so, as Captain D's can be a drive-through, okay, I'm just that's fine. But to come down and sit down and have a nice meal, and we push sustainability. So that's something. We do have a high population of elders and who don't really like to drive at night, but that's somewhere convenient and local, and they don't have that option no more. And so just as we get ready to approach this, just take a look. It's not nothing that right now, but it is on the radar for the future, because we need to design and do things for the future. Just like I need y'all to get involved if y'all want to be about Old National with this LCI, because if you're not a part of this process, you're not going to be a part of the future, because the input really takes place now. So what takes place in 5 to 10 years, you have a direct opportunity to affect it with your voice right now, October the 27th. So please take advantage of it. And so, and then reach out to Mr. Artie Jones. My last question, and I'm going to leave it and let the people go on and ask all the questions they want. When it comes down to development, what do you say to an HOA that has 10 acres of undeveloped land but wants to develop it? What is a possibility of a public-private partnership and dealing with them and creating something that is going to be beneficial for them, but they keep their land in perpetuity for the HOA, but can land lease it and create something? What do you say to that, and what can you do and help facilitate that? And how would you push the needs? And then how would it be funded? Would it be public-private dollars? Would they have to raise some, or would we have to put some towards it? What would be your game plan or your playbook that you would start with in that scenario?
What I would do first and foremost is that I would go back to what I had originally talked about. As far as my job, it is to, create taxable value in the property, create jobs, retain businesses, attract new businesses, and help grow expanding businesses. Now, if what the HOA would like to do falls in under those categories, we can have a conversation. We can find out, they would tell me the resources that they had to available, and they can let me know what their goal was. Are they looking to try to create income for the development, or are they trying to, let me know what their goal is, and then I would come up with various strategies to help to get them to that goal. Well, we may find out that what they want to do may not be realistic in what somebody would want to invest in. An example, the airport, Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, they own lots of real estate. And the airport has this rule that they don't sell property. They just long-term lease property. And there was a particular area in College Park that the airport owned that was zoned for single family homes. Yet at the same time, the airport, they're in the business of not, selling their property. They're in the business of leasing their property. You don't find very many people that will buy a home and not own the real estate that the home is on. So guess what? That property has been undeveloped for about 40 years now. It did not happen. Was not able to do anything with the property because they want to develop it as home, yet at the same time, the airport doesn't want to sell the property. So we go back to the example of the HOA, if they want to do something there and it's dealing with trying to build more homes, it probably ain't going to pan out. It's not going to work. Now, if they wanted to do a multifamily development, that's much different. I've seen leases on multifamily developments for 99 years on the real estate, on the dirt, and they would build a multifamily development. I've seen that. I've seen lease payments paid over a 99-year period of time. That is some great income. On the back end, 99 years from then, not sure of what the exit strategy would be for the multifamily developer, but at the same time, there's probably nobody that's going to be living, that did that deal
Right.
at the end of that. Yeah. So,
Right.
It's just a matter of, you got to put all the cards on the table, find out what you want, find out the goal, and just try to come up with strategy. And like I said, I know economic development, but there's a lot out there that I don't know. If I can't come up with any strategies, then I would reach out to other experts to say, hey, here's the scenario, here's some property. The HOA would like to generate some income. They want to continue to own their property. What can we do with this property for them to be able to generate the income that they want to hit their goals? And then we'll just have that collaboration.
Right. And but
if
you
we-
said something as this, and you're right, collaboration. As I'm gonna just have them contact Tamiko to reach out to you direct so you can just
Okay.
engage in a conversation and see this. I just wanted to connect and ask the question, but I believe, like I said, I'm good at connecting the dots. So I put y'all two with you, the subject matter expert, but you did give a scenario that can be interesting is with the 10 acres, as you said, multifamily housing. So they can also have a multifamily senior housing and address the current needs. And then that's a whole nother source that can be shovel ready and up and going because our seniors are with this market rates are facing evictions. So that's it. Oh, and then I do want to say to look at, because I just want to officially be on the record of saying this again, is that I want to look at the businesses who have been here 10 years and live in the city of South Fulton as 10 years plus, is let's look at giving them a 3 to 5 year tax abatement because that will help them expand their businesses throughout the city. And I just believe in before we look out anywhere, let's look within first. So I'm done, people. Like this is all y'all's. I'm sorry I had a few questions for Mr. Jones. And Mr. Jones, we got to do lunch again soon, sir. Questions for Mr. Jones? Questions?
Yes, this is Tamiko. Earlier in your conversation, you said a lot of people had negative comments. And what is it that you think we should do as residents to help make it a positive comment situation to help with the economic development? Do you want us to post on social media? Do you want us to take pictures? Do you want us to tell stories? What is it that you think the residents can do to help the image of South Fulton?
I would say that's a very good question, Tamiko. And all of the above that you just said is the direction. Believe it or not, like I said, when I first came to College Park, there was a lot of negative stuff that was said. And what I've done is that I always try to be upbeat, even in the face of when stuff hits the fan and everybody else is just like, oh no, it's the end of the world. I still try to be optimistic and positive, and I'm always pushing that direction. And I don't let people affect me. I don't let the naysayers dictate how I'm going to react to things. Period. I was raised that way. That you don't let other people hurt your feelings, or you don't let other people affect you. That whenever you're having a bad day, and lots of times whenever you're having a bad day, you kind of make up your mind that you're going to have a bad day to a certain degree. Or if you get knocked down, you get back up and you continue to push forward. With me doing the podcast, with me going around and doing, speeches, speaking to groups, with me going to the elementary schools and, making presentation before the kids to let them know that there's opportunities right here in their backyard that they can take advantage of. All of those things, even my kids, to a certain degree, I take them around with me, and I let them. I help them to see, kind of the beauty in the derelict. I can look at an abandoned shop or building, and I can see something beautiful there that can be developed into something better. My 10-year-old son, he's always in the back seat. Now he's in the front seat because he weighs enough to sit in front of the airbags. But he walks around town with me, or if I drive around, he can point at an empty storefront, and he says, "Dad, that window over there is cracked. You should have somebody to fix that window, and then they can put a nice shop in there, a nice restaurant." That's how he looks at things now. But he didn't just get that by himself. It's because I've always talked to him about taking things and making it better. Whenever I die, and I would hope that they would put this on my headstone. And I've, one of my colleagues has referred to me in this way. They said that Artie is a person that wants to leave things better than he found. That's my goal in life, to leave things better than I found it. Whether it's coaching a little league football team and, really getting the football team hyped up and helping them to win games. Or it might be taking an old derelict building, putting a new roof on it, and totally building it out and having a nice little shop or restaurant there. I like to make things better. I like to leave things better than I found it. I think that if the rest of the community embraces that, leave things better than you found it, if somebody's in a checkout line before you check out of a store and they're having a hard time coming up the cash, put the extra $1 or $2 in there and do something for them. And believe it or not, they're going to pay it forward also. And it becomes a chain reaction. That's what I believe. Like I said, when I started this job in 2000, when I was doing economic development, I've always said this to people. If I had all the money in the world, if I was a wealthy man, I would still do this job for free because I like having a positive effect in the lives of those people that I work with. So I would say, Tamiko, that would be the goal. Let's all leave things better than we found it. If somebody's saying something negative, you knock them down and you say, hey, that's not true about the city of South Fulton, and you defend it. I'm sorry
Every
for the
day.
long end.
Oh no, hey, no long, because your son legitimately is a mini you, and so just remind me of my dad, and so it's coming up but that's man, you're a good dad, and happy Father's Day, sir. You deserve it. And so anyway, but the next question. Any more
I think they're
questions?
tired of hearing. I think they're tired of
Well,
hearing from
get
me
there.
now.
Right. Well, it's 2 minutes after 8, and we're actually 2 minutes over because I said we hard stopping at 8. But thank you, Mr. Jones, for being accommodating and allowing Chief to come on. Thank you to constituents, my kitchen cabinet, for being here. As I'm just telling you, it is an exciting day because, as you know, what I always say, it's the best day of my life because we got up and we woke up. Before you can do anything, you got to wake up first. And so I'm just excited because it is the dawn of a new day as we are emerging from a lot of things, but we are merging into ourselves and becoming our unique brand of South Fulton. And it's an entire city. We 7 districts, but we one city. Don't ever get that wrong, man. We are one city. We are one. Go listen to Frankie Beverly tonight. And so have fun, enjoy it. Who's playing tonight? I don't know. My Falcons won, so I don't even care. The Braves out, so I'm good. I'm gonna go read. So it's but again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for taking the time out of your day to come join us here. As I really appreciate you, all that you have done and continue to do, and wanting to get everything straight. As my grandma would say, get the skinny. We cannot believe media reports. That's why I don't do media. As I come right here to my community, but if you don't hear from me, the subject matter experts come on themselves. You hear it straight from the mouth. So thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Jones, again. And look here, you invite me on your podcast sometime. Hey, I help with the kids. I mean, it's like for sure about that. It's like
All right.
great work. And this is Superstar Talent. We're gonna win the championship, okay? Because he's a collaborator. He wants to win one. So let's give him all the support that he needs, and keep up the good work. All right.
All right.
Have a good
Thank you,
night.
guys. Have a good night.